I have a lot of things I want to get off my chest.
Well, enough is enough, and it's time for a change.
Finally, The Rock has come back. I hate this idea that you're the best.
And if you're not down with that, we got two words for ya!
I'm the best in the world.
I fight at WrestleMania for the very, very small percentage of people that walk this planet and say I am proud to be, I'm sorry, a professional wrestler.
Oops, I'm breaking the fourth wall.
It's the podcast of the Immortals with your hosts, Matt Bush and Jimmy Bellamy.
All right, welcome to episode 35 of Podcast of the Immortals. I'm Matt Bush.
I'm Jimmy Bellamy.
We just got finished watching Night of Champions minutes ago.
Yeah,
We're all hopped up on Mountain Dew.
Yeah, it's not even 10:15 Central yet, so it ended literally
15 minutes ago. Yeah, right around there. It was pretty close to the 10 o'clock mark. They went a little longer than they normally do. Pretty solid pay-per-view. A lot of stuff I didn't expect to happen, which is always good.
I had mentioned earlier in the week that if we had lower expectations than what we've had for the past 3 or 4 pay-per-views, we would be satisfied. And that's what we got. We didn't get a pay-per-view to remember, but we got one that had some solid matches, some extra matches that we didn't expect even, I think, as early as yesterday. Confirmed, at least, or for official purposes. And I'm stunned.
Yeah, the ending stunned me as well, and it's. I suppose we could just start there if we wanted to.
Might as well lead off with
we have a new WWE champion, and it's Daniel Bryan, and I did not expect that at all. Even in my predictions, I wrote, well, it's kind of sad that like the biggest match on the card is the most predictable because everyone expected Orton to retain or at least be disqualified so that, you know, Daniel Bryan will be screwed over once again and has to go over, but it didn't happen. None of it happened. Daniel Bryan just won.
I have no idea where they're going either, and I love it. This seemed open shut. You think of how many John Cena as champion pay-per-views there have been where he comes out on top. You think about the CM Punk reign where he continued to come out on top. I thought that it was an easy pick for Randy Orton to win, and
wrong
for him to lose the title tonight. I'm looking forward to Raw. I think that some seeds were planted in this match, and we'll go over them for what will happen on Raw tomorrow, and maybe Raw will be what's predictable.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be what we were talking about just minutes ago. Or else I have no idea where they're going with this.
Well, where do you think they could possibly? Well, let's explain what happened in the match. For those of you who didn't get to see the pay-per-view, the match was solid, back and forth affair, everything you expected. Daniel Bryan hits the big knee, but like a few minutes before that, a ref came out and kind of like switched out with the current ref and was like, "Yo, bro, I got this," which seemed odd to us. We thought, okay, here comes the big screw over on Daniel Bryan. After Daniel Bryan hits his finisher, I don't know if they've named that yet, the Bryan Plex.
Yeah.
He hits the flying knee. 1, 2, 3. Quickest count you've seen since like Mike Tyson counted 1, 2, 3 against Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 14.
Yeah, and it was weird because it wasn't a heel ref 1, 2, 3. It was like a 1, 2, 3. It was a quicker than usual one.
Yeah.
Referee Scott Armstrong is doing the match. And prior to the show, I guess at the very start of the show, Triple H comes out and cuts a promo, which never is a good thing for the start of a pay-per-view. And he says that there will be no interference. None from the Shield, none from the Big Show. And to me, I thought, okay, this is weird. Mm-hmm. There's something going on. And then Scott Armstrong, as the ref, takes a bump, lands outside of the ring. He's out of commission for a while. Second ref comes in, refereeing the match, no problem. Armstrong comes to 5 minutes later, gets in, tells the other ref, I'm good. So we go back to the original referee. And he was the one who did the fast count. Mm-hmm. So what I think is going to happen is that Triple H and or Orton will protest and say, this was a fast count, it's not fair. The other thing, though, that was weird is that Orton didn't try to kick out. So it's not like right after the 3 count Orton kicked out to have that controversy and say, I would have kicked out if it was a normal count.
Yeah.
He continued to lay there.
Like an uncatchable ball rule. And,
Yes.
you know.
So I think that Orton will get his rematch, or the decision will be overturned tomorrow, and that Orton will be the champion. But if they're doing that, why didn't they do that tonight? Now, we did run short on time. The match ended about 9:52, I think, or 9:53.
It's pretty late
Central.
for a pay-per-view.
Usually they're off the air by 45 after.
Yeah.
So I don't know if time had something to do with it, but who knows? But that's what I think will happen. Now, you presented another possibility.
Well, during the pay-per-view, they went backstage and there was an interaction between Triple H and Randy Orton. And basically, they were saying, Triple H was wondering aloud to Randy Orton whether he chose the right guy, whether he is the corporate champion that he needs and wants to go forward with. And Randy Orton took exception to it, and they kind of had a little verbal showdown there. And what if Triple H decided, you know what, Randy Orton isn't my guy? The crowd's clearly behind Daniel Bryan. Let's go with him. Let's go with the hot hand, you know? So maybe this is Triple H trying to get in good with Daniel Bryan, or maybe Triple H is turning face, or Daniel Bryan's turning heel. There's just so many ways they could go with it. But I really think that scene with Orton and Triple H kind of sets up everything for tomorrow.
I'm thinking out loud here, but is this going to be the thing that divides the McMahons?
Ooh, maybe.
Will Triple H, go in Bryan's corner, and will Stephanie represent Randy? Will Vince represent Randy?
Stephanie sure looks like the most evil of all the McMahons, at least lately. She's
because I think she is in real life.
Well, yet to be known. But yeah, it's interesting.
That scenario, though, doesn't really explain or address the ref. To me, you have to address the count. You have to address the speed of the count, and the referee. Not even the referee switch, because there was nothing. There's nothing blurry or fuzzy about that at all. But the count. It was a quick count, and I don't think you can just ignore that. And I don't think that it was just a coincidence, because we talked about a fast count prior to it happening.
Yeah.
Said, watch, we'll get a fast count. So they'll address that. Mission accomplished, in my opinion, because we have no idea what's going to happen. We're talking about it. We're stunned, and it went against what we thought was going to happen.
Oh, big time. I thought there was no way. I thought it was way too early for Daniel Bryan to be holding up that championship belt. I thought at least SummerSlam, or not SummerSlam, God.
Survivor Series,
the other double S, you know. But yeah, it's shocking to me. Like, none of us reacted to it though. Like, we weren't like, oh yeah, Daniel Bryan. It was all like, oh, here comes the screw job. Like, we kept waiting for Triple H's music to hit. Like, it was a weird moment.
It feels too soon for me. Like I've said before, I'll give it time to breathe, because these storylines should take time. Thank you. That was a big sneeze.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, if this is it and Bryan's the champion, the whole month of build-up just seems like it was worthy of something that deserves more time.
Yeah.
So I hope they take the belt off of Bryan tomorrow, and I hope it's a reversal, and that they say that this reign never happened.
Yeah.
That this title change never took place.
Maybe Daniel Bryan comes out and says, you know what, that wasn't a true victory. I watched it. Maybe he's a stand-up dude like that. I don't know. I mean, we've seen stuff like that in the past, usually with Cena, and then he gets booed.
That's a wrinkle you could put in it. I want to see more from this. We clearly will. But if that's all for Orton, I'll be curious to see if they reverse the decision or if Orton just gets the rematch and wins.
Yeah.
I think they'll reverse the decision. But the question would be, why didn't it happen tonight? And I guess maybe time is the answer. I don't know.
Someone should have been throwing a red flag, from the sidelines. I don't know. We're watching football, so got that on my mind.
I was disappointed, though, in the crowd. The pay-per-view was in Detroit, and the crowd just seemed dead. They did their yes things, but even that, you'd look around, there were a lot of people sitting during Bryan's entrance and not, for lack of a better term, participating. And other than the occasional table chants in the CM Punk match, you didn't get a whole lot, and it was disappointing. And I guess now I would like them to see, or I would like to see them designate bigger places for pay-per-views.
Detroit's a pretty big place.
It is, but we know Detroit's current status as a troubled city economically. And granted, they had butts in the seats; it was full, but it seemed very lackluster as far as enthusiasm went, and I think that contributed to the mood. I mean, we even sat there like,
Yeah, a lot of people checking their phones, and I think that was more a product of what I felt was a kind of blah card.
Yeah,
and they're kind of pigeonholed with these gimmick things because they have Night of Champions. Okay, every championship has to be on the line, blah, blah, blah. It's tough sometimes. They kind of paint themselves in corners with their storylines, and some can't go forward just because of what is supposed to happen at these pay-per-views. To start the pay-per-view, Triple H actually came out and gave a promo, and it felt like Raw. And I'm like, this is an okay promo for Raw. Definitely not what I was hoping for to start the pay-per-view, and it kind of set a weird mood for the whole night because they went on for like 12 minutes. And Triple H came out, announces that the WWE Championship match will have no interference with anyone, like we had talked about earlier. Paul Heyman then comes out and enters and says he needs to speak with Triple H because he needs to shave or something. I wasn't really listening. My notes are kind of scatterbrained. So Paul Heyman wants out of the Punk match. He says Triple H says that there's no DQ in the match and Paul Heyman will be fine because Curtis Axel's there. Axel then talks and just plain sucks on the mic like he always does. Kind of angers Triple H, and Triple H then adds a stipulation that the Intercontinental Championship title will be on the line starting right now, and Kofi Kingston comes out, and that's our first match of the night, 12-15 minutes into the pay-per-view. It
took a long time just to set up what was an IC title match that, when you really look back at it, there was no way Axel was going to lose. It served the purpose of, as you said, I mean, really, they do paint themselves into a corner with these gimmick pay-per-views. They needed to have every title on the line, so this was their way of saying, oh, we're going to have the IC title on the line. It served that dual purpose of also making Axel look better and stronger and a threat to CM Punk.
But he almost lost that match. It was. I mean, we knew he wasn't going to lose, but he still almost lost that match, and he looked terrible on the mic. The more I see of Curtis Axel, the more I'm disappointed. I don't like his finisher. I wish he'd just do the perfect plex because it looks so awesome, and his finisher looks like Dean Ambrose's or Bray Wyatt's. They all have these like little gimmicks with people's heads now, and it's all kind of like crossroads, and everything is kind of the same with all these finishers. I don't like them. But yeah, I don't know. Curtis Axel just bummed me out. I don't know. I don't know what to say about him. It's just bad.
Yeah. And I guess with Axel, I don't know. They really haven't had much success doing the whole dad gimmick or the, hey, this is what my relatives who are wrestlers did. I mean, it's never really, because they don't seem to go all the way with it. And yeah. I think it'd be different if they just had him go by Joe Hennig, but to come up with this convoluted excuse of, oh, this is why he's Curtis Axel. And the whole Heyman thing, I think, has hurt him because the Heyman-Punk feud has overshadowed anything that Curtis Axel has done.
And Curtis Axel's not going to beat Punk. right now. He's out of his league, and I mean, it's too bad because I think he could be. I mean, he's good in the ring and stuff, but he just needs something different, something that they're not doing for him right now. And I don't know what it is, but they got to find that out real quick. Otherwise, he's going to end up like Wade Barrett.
Yeah. And he very well might. He's going to be lumped in. I mean, Kofi's another one of those guys. They're doing a merry-go-round of IC title changes with Barrett, Axel, and Kofi. And it's like, here's a belt that really means nothing
among
anymore.
others, Miz and Fandango probably, and I don't know. It's just rough. I feel bad, but yeah, Curtis Axel wins. More terrible camera work in this match, by the way, and I'm getting real tired of WWE messing it up. Like, did he get the pin on and they cut away, and like no one knew if he won? There's something like that, or a kick out.
Oh God, what was it on? A kick out. Yeah, we didn't know.
And I'm like, what? Yeah, and they've missed finishers, they've missed pins, they've missed crucial elements of matches, and I'm getting real tired of it. I don't know if they've hired a new director or something like that who's missing cuts, but they need to figure that out.
It's happening more often than it's ever happened before. It seems weekly that it's happening, and if we're noticing it, think of what we are missing, because you can't possibly see everything, but it's happening multiple times.
At like crazy important parts of like matches too, like Daniel Bryan's finisher, like a couple weeks ago on Raw. It was like the first time we'd ever seen. No, maybe it was last pay-per-view. It
was against Cena.
Yeah, they missed the knee to the face. It was the first time he had ever done that move, and all of a sudden he's 1, 2, 3 pin, and we're like, what happened? Like, it's really bumming me out because like we're missing important stuff, but whatever. So after the match, we get our Divas match. AJ taking on Naomi from the Funkadactyls, Brie of the Bellas, of course, and Natalya Neidhart in the Fatal 4-Way for the Divas Championship. Interesting ring gear tonight from Naomi, by the way.
That was, to me, the highlight of the night.
She had that booty meat hanging out.
Unreal. I mean, she looked phenomenal, and it was kind of a...
You kept commenting about that. You seem to be enjoying yourself.
I don't know if it was like a Mad Max-ish thing. It was just nice to see them get away from the cheerleader theme to get up. Yeah. And she's going to shine as a singles competitor.
For sure.
She's terrific, and she looked phenomenal. Just, I mean, I'm trying to say that as least creepily as possible.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, you made multiple comments about it during the pay-per-view. I was cracking up over there. But for Divas match, it was what it was. AJ ends up winning, which I didn't see coming. I thought her time was up. I thought Natalya was going to win, and Natalya looked good in defeat. She actually pulled a Ryback and like did a double sharpshooter to both Brie and Naomi, and I thought that was pretty cool. She actually pulled it off. At first, I'm like, there's no way.
I just didn't see a point, and the only reason is since she didn't win from it, I didn't see a point. In most of these Divas matches, when a submission move is put on, a tap out comes within 2 to 3 seconds.
Right away,
So she has these two women in a move, and they sold it well, but they didn't tap. None of them tapped, and it took AJ a while to come in and break it up.
Yeah.
So to me, that took away from it. I was surprised that AJ retained. I thought for the sake and solely because of the Total Divas show, they would have Natty or at least one of the non-champions win it.
Yeah. And apparently this is going to be a big part of the Divas' second half of the season or whatever. That's why I thought Natalya was going to win, actually, because it would give her something to do other than complain about Tyson Kidd. Because it seems like her only role in the show right now is that she isn't getting as much as she wants or whatever. And I thought, I don't know, I just thought a title change would be an important move in the show's in Total Divas show, and especially to put it on one of the cast members. I thought that'd be an interesting dynamic to see, but I guess not.
I'm fine with this because it probably, especially since Natalia was the one to tap to the Black Widow, it will build up a feud with the two.
Yeah.
I just want to, have they explained where Caitlyn's been?
No.
That to me doesn't make sense.
Yeah, because she was a long time she was in the mix, and then all of a sudden
she was the champion, and of course lost her rematch and rematches. But to me, you could get a good 3-person program with AJ, Natalia, and Caitlyn.
Oh, it'd be awesome.
And then Naomi, throw her in there.
Yeah. Yeah, 4 girls who can really go in the ring. I still love that Black Widow move by AJ. It seemed like when you look at AJ, you're like, okay, how is she going to beat these bigger girls? But when she puts that move on, you're like, oh, damn, okay, yeah. I see it now, you know?
That's exactly it. It looks effective. It looks like one of those moves, as I've said, we talked about our favorite moves of all time, and I said the ones that look legitimately painful to me are the best ones, and this would be in that category.
Oh, for sure.
And it does even the odds when she's in the ring with physically imposing figures.
Yeah, and I love how she like applies it. She's like whipping around them, and all of a sudden locked in. And
I'm telling you though,
this
Divas Division 1 and 2 years from now is going to be one of the super bright spots of WWE,
especially with Paige coming up.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
And just wait till you see Summer Rae in the ring on a regular basis. She's a terrific wrestler, and you've got a handful of talented women in NXT, and that division is going to kick ass. If they don't screw it up, it's all about WWE taking it seriously and utilizing these women like they should and can.
Yeah. Our next match on the card was for the World Heavyweight Championship. We had RVD taking on ADR, the Battle of the Initials again. ADR retains after being disqualified. He held on to the cross-arm breaker. That sounds right.
Cross-arm breaker, I think.
Or cross-arm bar. One of those.
I think it's cross-arm breaker.
Armbar. After RVD had grabbed onto the rope for 5 seconds, was disqualified, but he gets a hold onto his belt, which was his main concern, I'm sure. After the match, ADR grabbed a chair, but Rodriguez stole it from him, hit him with it, and then RVD got up. And they actually set up like a cross ring.
Van Terminator,
yeah, which was awesome to see.
Very good. On the replay, you could see ADR cheating a little bit, holding the chair out a little bit for Van Dam. But I mean, kudos to Van Dam at 42. He made it across the ring, and it was a great spot. It was a perfect opportunity for Sandow to cash in.
Yeah,
and we may have seen a legitimate injury, concussion from ADR.
Possibly. I think it was just a good sell job.
Could have been.
Because the way he was holding it, I don't think he would have been hit in the head. Just the way... I mean... I don't...
But I just wonder why they did that, and there was no teaser of Sandow coming out. And Sandow had that tweet that we saw later on in the night where it said, "How long will I be? I wonder how much longer I'll be the uncrowned champion." Months, weeks, or years, months, weeks. Well, it couldn't have been years. I don't know. Minutes, and he put like minutes.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see. It would have been a perfect chance, but again, that would have been predictable as well.
I'd like to see him win a match first, maybe. When he's jobbing to Santino, maybe it's not the best time to put on the belt.
That's true. And you look at the World Heavyweight Championship has suffered because of those cash-ins being that way with the losing streak that the person goes on. They haven't done that. Yes. They haven't done it that much for the WWE title contract holder.
I mean, Daniel Bryan had it 2 years ago, and he did go on a losing streak, and then he won, and then he held on to it through WrestleMania, kind of sneakily. Like he wasn't winning clean. It was kind of luckily.
He won the title as a babyface and turned heel while champion.
And then, of course, the Raw After Mania this year with Ziggler, and that was a huge pop, and we thought things were going to go well for him, but then the concussion happened, and of course now he's jobbing again, which is unbelievable to me. But hopefully they'll turn Sandow around. I don't know why they have to do that. It's like, oh, they don't need to win because they have the the briefcase now, but yeah.
It does take away some luster from that title.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just hoping for some unification matches. We don't need a US and IC title. Keep the IC title, of course. That's a WWE original.
Yeah.
And we don't need two champions. I don't even know how they've ignored the fact that there are two major champions
For a long time.
They don't have a roster split. They don't even call it Raw Super Show anymore, which is good. They don't need a World Heavyweight Championship. Just give us the WWE Championship. That's it.
Yeah, I loved when they had the unified belt. And it makes sense now that it's a Raw. I mean, because the Super Show has the brand extension's over.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure that they've talked about it. And how sweet it would be to have a unification match at Mania this year. I think
it'd be great.
It'd be awesome.
It'd be great instead of having one of the championship matches start the show.
Yeah.
And I've never been okay with it. I've also never taken the World Heavyweight Championship seriously.
Really?
No matter how much they've tried to hype it, I'm like, it's not the WWE Championship.
Undertaker Edge at 24?
No, never.
Really?
No. Those are great matches, great guys to have fight each other, but I've never been like, oh my god, the World Heavyweight Championship's on the line.
Triple H, Shawn Michaels,
Batista, yeah,
and Benoit at 20? No?
I've never felt like, oh, this is great. And it's weird because I think if it had still been the WCW Championship, if they were able to keep that thing alive, it would have been different for me. Because I know when they bought WCW, there was talk that the second show was going to be WCW. Like they eventually did with ECW.
Yeah.
And that they would have it completely separate. And then every once in a while at pay-per-views, they'd get together and fight. Even though that's kind of hokey, that of course they're all WWE guys, I would buy that more than it's like, oh, here's our World Heavyweight Champion. Because
they used to call it the World Heavyweight Championship. Like if you go and look back at the old WWF belts,
well, you look at
the World Heavyweight Champion,
the Smoking Skull belt we had. It says Heavyweight Championship on it.
Yep.
But to me, you need, and of course that's why they have it split. You have the WWE World Heavy. It was the WWE Heavyweight Championship, Heavyweight Wrestling Championship, I think. To me, just all you need is one. That's it. And if they unify it at WrestleMania or sometime soon, that'd be awesome. Because I have that Vengeance DVD from 2001 when they did unify the belts, and that was one of the coolest things to me. Loved it.
Yeah. I loved when Jericho had the two belts. You know? Like, I loved when he would just carry them around. Yeah. And
you saw the Colognes do that too. Carlito and Primo did that when they were the tag team champions, when they unified the World Tag titles and the WWE titles.
Miz and Big Show had that too, didn't they? Yeah.
Yep, and Jericho and Big Show, I think.
Jericho and Big Show. Oh, yeah. Miz and...
No, I think Miz and Big Show did
Was
too.
it Miz and Big Show?
Yeah, Show Miz.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Well, yeah, I don't know.
Because I think
we're getting off track here big time.
I think Rhodes and DiBiase were the first to have the current tag team titles that they won. I think they beat the Colognes, and then they had the new titles the next night. Pretty sure.
Interesting, but yeah, I'm totally for unifying it, but they're not gonna because the belts sell. They're toys. At least, I mean, we don't need 4 belts right now. You know, when you look at the classic eras, we had the World Heavyweight Championship, we had the Intercontinental Championship, we had the Tag Team Championships, and maybe like light heavyweight or European or something like that, or hardcore.
And I know, like, when the European title was around, it was okay, but to me it was never significant. They used it kind of as a tool for a lot of those wrestlers to have, like, the Grand Slam where you'd have a Michaels or you'd have Triple H win all of it.
Yeah.
And then a lot of time they had like the Eurocontinental where they would have the European champion also be the Intercontinental champion.
Yeah.
They did that a lot.
You never see people carrying 2 belts anymore, and we've talked about this before. Why can't Dean Ambrose win the World Heavyweight Championship and have the U.S. title? I don't know. There's a lot of things that they don't do anymore, that worked in the past.
Yeah. You should have.
We'd have a whole show about this.
You should have Divas. Although I hate the name Divas. I liked it when they had the women's championship. Although when they had both, that was stupid. But
they had both at one time.
They had both when they debuted the Divas title. They had one for Raw, one for SmackDown.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and then they had a unification match. I think I don't know who was in it. Maybe Michelle McCool. Have a Divas title, have a tag title, have the IC title, have the WWE Championship. And I understand though you have a lot of people wrestling more than normal. You have a larger than usual roster. Granted, now that there's no roster split, I'd be curious to see what the numbers are, size-wise, because I don't think it's quite what it was back when they did have the brand extension, but still, you don't need all of that. I don't want to see a U.S. title anymore because it's insignificant. Tonight was a good example. Mm-hmm. I mean, if Dolph Ziggler wins it, what's he? I mean, it's a step down, really. He was the world heavyweight champion, and rightfully so.
A few months ago,
yeah. And a win does nothing for him. Now, for currently for Ambrose, it makes the Shield members look good that they all three have titles. I like that.
Yeah.
And that was another part of the predictability of tonight, that you knew those guys weren't losing their titles, and they didn't, as you'll find out if you didn't see it.
But yeah, so after the World Heavyweight Championship match, we had Miz versus Fandango. We kind of predicted this, even though it was announced. Miz actually won, which I was really surprised by. Actually, he wins with the figure 4. No one seemed to care on either side. I didn't care. I was checking my phone and Twitter and stuff, and I just don't know what they're doing with either of these guys. I mean, Miz headlined Mania just over 2 years ago, and now he can barely get on a pre-show.
He's a color commentator for Main Event.
Yeah.
The thing that really, really bothered me about this is that they didn't even try to make it sound important. They didn't say that the winner of this will get a shot at the Intercontinental title tomorrow or the U.S. title tomorrow. Mm-hmm. They didn't do anything like that.
Just like, here's two guys who we don't care about.
On a Night of Champions, a pay-per-view where every match is supposed to involve a championship. Yeah. So that bothered me, and it also cost me money because we did our little pool tonight where everybody kicks in $5. Yep. Whoever has the most points at the end of the night wins. And with that Bryan match, myself and 2 others lost out on money, and we had one guy pick Bryan, who was among the leaders, and he ended up winning. But had I got I picked Fandango.
Yeah,
I mean that would have at least put me in a tie with the winner. But
it was rough. It was rough for me because a lot of things just didn't go the way I thought they would, the way I would have booked it, anyways. And another person who didn't go the way that they thought, it was Dolphins 1925 on Reddit. He actually got one wrong for the very first time.
And which one was that?
The World Heavyweight Championship. He thought that Alberto Del Rio was going to win cleanly.
Okay.
He was wrong. Del Rio was lost by DQ, and he said, like, someone must have changed it at last minute. This is what I wanted to see. You know, I want them to not get me right. I don't want these leaks anymore. So he was actually really happy that he got it wrong. And that's the first time he's ever had one wrong. He's not predicting every match anymore because his information has gotten a little tighter. Mm-hmm. But he did have every other match that he predicted, including the Daniel Bryan win, which I was pretty shocked by. And I thought Daniel Bryan was going to win by DQ. So when I read that, I'm like, wow.
So did you look at the Bryan result before the match ended?
Yeah, actually, just because I don't know, I was in a weird mood tonight. It's been a rough couple of weeks, but anyways, so the Miz and Fandango match ended, and no one cared. We had Punk versus Heyman and Axel next in the handicapped elimination match, and this one, again, this feud just it's missing something for me. I say this all the time, and tonight, again, it was missing for me again. But it was exactly how both of us predicted it. Paul Heyman ended up winning. But the way it happened was kind of cool. If you want to talk about that.
Punk has Heyman right where he wants him. He beats Axel. Mm-hmm. He handcuffs Heyman. He's beating him with the
He pulls the handcuffs out of his boot. which the ref should have maybe caught in the pre-match inspection, but there's no DQ.
True. So, and I was trying to think back in no DQ matches if the ref checks the competitors or not. I can't remember even. It's just so routine that I don't even notice it anymore. But that was a nice play by Punk. He has Heyman right where he wants him. Heyman's lying on the ground. He's tapping out with his feet. He's like, I'm tapping. But of course he has no move on him, so it's not being honored. And Heyman Punk says, I broke your heart. Now I'm going to break your face. Yeah. And who shows up? Ryback. Ryback slams Punk through a table that was leaning against the corner and drags a prone Paul Heyman on top of Punk for the 1-2-3. And then he carries Heyman out like a giant plank of wood, or a giant log over his shoulder.
Fireman carry.
Yeah. And he, I guess, is a new Paul Heyman guy. I feel like the Paul Heyman guy thing has jumped the shark.
Yeah.
But I want to see if Heyman starts a faction. If you have, I hate to include Brock Lesnar in this because he's a part-timer, but Lesnar, Axel, Ryback. What I'm thinking, though, is based on the conversation that Axel and Heyman had at the pay-per-view backstage, is that Axel will be gone from Heyman just because he lost.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see. The reason that this has lacked any kind of fire and momentum for me is for the reasons we mentioned earlier, but also that Punk needs to be involved in the WWE title picture. You said, I think you said earlier this week, there's no way he would be excluded, or he would exclude himself from Triple H's tyrannical rule.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Once he gets in, and who knows, once, whether that's Battleground, I can't see them extending this feud. I mentioned that maybe it'll go through Survivor Series. I can't see it going on that long unless we do get another legitimate Punk-Lesnar match where Punk does win and he gets Heyman at the same time. But once the whole Punk-Heyman thing's done, you got to believe Punk's going straight to the WWE Championship feud.
Or at least be involved. Punk's anti-establishment. He's always done his own thing. And for him just to sit back while Triple H does his... it'd be like if Stone Cold just didn't care that McMahon was just doing whatever the hell he wanted and messing with the world. It would never happen. Stone Cold would have been there.
Something will take place as soon as Punk's done with this feud, because he's never been included in the group. Everybody come out on stage and watch me talk or watch this match. Punk's never there. Yeah. He's always doing his own thing.
CM Punk has left the building.
I just can't believe in this. I would like to see them create a bridge where, for just the good of business, using a term that they're using in the storyline, if Heyman would somehow align himself with the McMahons, because to have Punk separate from that feud, it's not believable.
Yeah, it's and I can't agree more. Everything's just felt a little off. I mean, it's good stuff, but it just felt like they could be doing more, and the stuff with Big Show and they're missing opportunities to make it more expanding and reach, have Triple H's tentacles, for lack of, reach deeper, roots, spread and affect more people in the company. And you've seen a little bit of that, with Ziggler, going against him and some other people, but it can really, Cody Rhodes, I think is a prime example, and I really love what they're doing with him. But have it extend even further than that, Punk should be in it. Daniel Bryan's in it, Big Show's in it, but there's so many other. I mean, Damien Sandow could be in it, Wade Barrett might be something interesting for him, give him something to do. Fandango, Miz, all these guys who have nothing to go on, get them involved, have it part of the story. Just find something.
It's also weird because you have all of these guys who you could be using, and then you have Brad Maddox and Triple H, who they're not quite as vindictive or ruthless or evil as you think they could be or they should be, because they'll get on Heyman's case about something, or they'll even the odds somewhere where you're like, really, if you're supposed to be this vindictive, heelish guy,
bitch.
you're giving you're making the match fair. I mean, the whole no interference thing. I mean, we've covered that, and I'm sure we'll get our answer tomorrow. But I don't know. I mean, like, Big Show was such a big part of this storyline the past month, and he wasn't even on.
Yeah, it doesn't even
for
show
a
up.
second tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder, did they have to change something up at the last minute? Did he have a reason for not being there? I want all of these things to be linear.
Maybe a diarrhea.
Yeah, maybe.
That always gets me out of work. No one ever questions that. Have you noticed? Like, if you're like, oh, I have a sore throat, they're like, oh, you don't sound too bad. But if you're ever like, oh, I got diarrhea, they're like, take your time, man. I'll see you tomorrow.
I guess I've never used that, but there was. I don't need to get into it. There was. No, I'm not even going to get into it. But no, I guess you're right. Yeah, people tend to stay away from that stuff. They don't need to know or want to know.
No, like if I was a wrestler and I'm like, dude, I got diarrhea, I can't go out there. If someone came to me and I was the boss in that situation, I'm like, I understand.
Yeah,
like
you've been down that road.
Trust me, I don't want you in that ring if you have diarrhea. We'll figure something out there, Big Show.
Oh my goodness.
So. Get well soon, Big Show. Hopefully you're feeling all right.
Yeah.
Don't eat the 7-Eleven burritos. It's no good. So
we will get our answers on Raw.
Yeah, our diarrhea answers. Ambrose took on Dolph Ziggler. Like we said, Ziggler loses again, cleanly again. Ambrose holds on to the U.S. title. That's about all. I mean, I was expecting a better match.
I'm not. The crowd was dead for it.
Yeah.
I'm not ruling out Ziggler for anything. I don't necessarily think this was a punishment. I mean, he got a match on a pay-per-view, so he can't be really getting punished. I think this was just a last-minute filler match. It was announced on SmackDown. I think WWE had it on its page and then pulled it for a little bit and then brought it back. But it wasn't clear whether or not there would even be a U.S. title match at this pay-per-view for a little while this week.
Yeah.
So I just think it was a case of we need a match. Let's put these two in there because Ziggler's had these matches with the Shield members in recent weeks, and he's been the guy on the other side of that anti-establishment group. But nothing in this match. They didn't even talk about his feud with the Shield and his 1-on-3 matches and speaking out, and so I think it was just a filler. I don't really take anything from it. I think, and I'm hoping Ziggler gets back into a main title picture somehow. Once the dust settles and it's Bryan or Orton who's the champion, I'd like to see the next crop of people who will be competing for the title. If Punk gets in, Ziggler gets in, I would love to see Ziggler fight for the WWE Championship. Mm-hmm. They have a chance tomorrow to kind of reset the table.
Yeah. One of my favorite nights was the Raw after a certain pay-per-view. When I was watching the Attitude Era when I was younger. Because I'm like, all right, I found out who won. Who's going to challenge him next? And there would always be like 7 guys who could possibly step up, and they all wanted it. Like, everyone was like, I'm next in line for the title, I want that title, and they'd have like some awesome match as the main event as the number 1 contenders, and you'd be cheering on your guy because you didn't know who was going to win. There'd be like 5 guys who legitimately could have won that match, and you would have been like excited for the next pay-per-view to see what happens. And they feel like they don't do that anymore. It's always like just they got their one guy lined up and it's all set and and okay, we'll see you next pay-per-view. I wish there was a little more unpredictability and like right now CM Punk should be like, well, maybe I can go after Daniel Bryan now because I've beaten Daniel Bryan before. I was a champ. He should be like, okay, I can go get that title now. Ryback, all these guys who have now beaten Daniel Bryan in the past should be like, all right, I'm next in line because I've beaten him before. They never do that anymore. I wish they would.
There's a clear division, and it didn't seem like there used to be that division. It was a little more wide open where, granted, Attitude Era was very faction based, so that helped mix it up where you could take, Ken Shamrock is, playing a pivotal role in the corporation in this week or this month, and then you could have somebody from the Ministry, you could have somebody from DX, but now guys are so set in their roles that now that Antonio Cesaro's in a tag team with Jack Swagger, he's not fighting any meaningful singles matches, other than, of course, he's
jobbing to Santino.
Well, yeah, or he's doing the NXT thing and elevating some people there, which is cool to see. But he's not fighting for the IC title. He's not fighting for the World Heavyweight Championship, and it seems that they're very set in this almost formulaic way, and it could be I guess a side effect of how they do the writing now, that they have a creative team where, as you talked about back then, they didn't really have what's in place now. And I do remember several times where guys got their chance to step up. I remember Billy Gunn, Val Venus, The Godfather, and guys would get on a run. They'd get one with Chris Jericho's another one, and some it would work, others it wouldn't, and they'd let it play out a bit, and now they're not doing it as much, but occasionally you'll see kind of like, and I'm not talking about when the guy gets in the ring and just like throws down an open challenge, where if the writing team gets stuck, they're we'll just have him throw an open challenge to the locker room.
Yeah, I hate that too.
But I do miss the contender matches, because now what they've been doing, and they've been doing it for years, is it's like, okay, Matt, I'm feuding with you, and then we've got Andy feuding with Shane, so Andy and I are going to be in a tag team against you two. Yeah. And they've done that for a long time, but the last handful of years, it seems like that's it. That's almost the guaranteed Raw main event is going to be a tag team match involving feuding guys, opposing each other, and your teammates with another guy because he just happens to be a babyface who's feuding with a heel.
But going back, I mean, like, if CM Punk came out and said he wanted to challenge, and be in consideration to take on Daniel Bryan now, that doesn't mean his stuff with Heyman has to end either. Let's say he loses the number one contender match, or someone else wins it, or somehow, then that can just be fuel to Paul Heyman's feud. Heyman can be like, you can't even, without me, you're not the best in the world anymore. That's why you lost on Monday, and that's why you're going to lose against Ryback next, at next pay-per-view. Like, you can add it in, like, it can be part of the other storylines. You don't just have to have one storyline for every guy and that's it. You can have multiple things moving on, and I like that when they layer it and everything, starts going together, and that's my hope for it anyways.
You nailed it. And you think of the best shows. One tonight, we talked about it last week, Breaking Bad. When you have people involved in multiple areas of a show and it finally does come together, you're rewarded. You're rewarded as a viewer, and you build an incentive for watching and for following it. And because WWE TV is never going to end, it's not like we're going to have 5 seasons of WWE television and that's it. They have unlimited opportunities to set things up, and they're also able to quickly abandon things that don't work because you have several characters, you have unlimited weeks of television,
multiple shows.
and I hope that they do take a page from some of these successful TV shows, that they don't just get stuffy and think, well, we've been on the air this many years, the longest running weekly episodic television show, as Michael Cole loves to remind us. Do that. Have the Punk Heyman becomes infinitely more important, if the WWE title's back in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Punk interacting with Bryan, with Orton. You have Heyman involved with the McMahons. Is he going to be against them like he usually is? Do they have to unify for a common purpose? That's missing from the tag division as well. They need something to increase the importance of that. You do have Shield involved in this main storyline, but it has almost nothing to do with the fact that they're tag champions.
Oh yeah,
and it's weird that they haven't had Big Show and Dolph Ziggler gun for it. And I know Mark Henry got hurt, so that kind of went back to the side or gone away period where it was going to be Show and Henry fighting the Shield. But I have faith in them to make it a little better.
not that it's bad.
No, it's not. But they certainly could learn from some of these other successful shows.
Oh, for sure.
And layer it.
For sure.
Yeah. You dropped a for show.
For sure.
Last week, too.
I did?
Yeah.
I'm getting that for show.
Oh, jeez.
One match we didn't talk about, actually, was the pre-show, where the Primetime Players took on the Usos, took on the three-man band, took on
Tons of Funk,
and
the Real Americans.
The winner of this was going to later on take on the Shield for the WWE Tag Team Championships. Primetime Players ended up winning that match. They were the last team out. What is it called? What's where they
Tag Team Turmoil?
Tag Team Turmoil match, where once one is eliminated, the next comes out. So the Primetime Players win, continuing their push that since they've turned face following Darren Young's announcement that when he came out, and they look good. I love Titus O'Neil. He looks reckless, and that's the word that you use. But I just love, he just tosses people like they're nothing. I really like that stuff. But the Shield did end up winning against Primetime Players and holding on to their titles after a big spear from Roman Reigns, as predicted by most everybody. But it was a solid match, and it's good to see Primetime Players getting the push, and people are doing the millions of dollars dance now, and I like it. I think it's good stuff.
A lot of people are into it. O'Neil is certainly very rough around the edges, and I said earlier tonight that a lot of his matches look like instructional walkthroughs.
Yeah.
You see a lot of people going a little slower for him. But if
they're don't hurt me, bro.
If he kind of reminds me of like a guy who maybe he was on a makeover show where he had to get a new...
You said a makeout.
No, makeover. And he had to get a new wardrobe and everything, where he's wearing these really nice looking clothes, but you could just tell he's not comfortable in them, and he looks very stiff, and that's kind of how he works. Where, JBL talks about, he's like, when this guy realizes what he is, he's going to be a champion, and we got a future champion.
He said that again tonight.
Yeah, he says it all the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah.
And he has a great physique, but he's just super stiff. Or we're kind of like those people who are socially awkward, where it doesn't matter what kind of advice you give them, they will not be able to have a conversation in public with a stranger and come across as
a female.
Normal. Yeah, or a female. And
the lady.
I just don't have a lot of faith in Titus O'Neil. I like him.
I do have faith in him because he has one thing that people like Mason Ryan don't. Charisma.
Yeah.
The guy's funny on the mic. He's confident. I loved his Pancake Patterson stuff. I loved his Wash Rag stuff.
Pancake Patterson's great.
It was awesome. It was a weird moment for it to kick off a Raw show with John Cena, but it was awesome, and I loved the Wash Rag stuff with Jerry Lawler. Was some of the funniest commentary stuff I've heard ever. And I love the sign. People had Wash Rag signs the next few weeks. It was great. He's hilarious. Darren Young's talented. I think they have something, and once he does figure it out, I think they're going to be really good.
One thing that hurts him though is he's a below average worker.
Yeah.
And a lot of the complaints you hear though about other wrestlers that you say so and so he doesn't have charisma, he doesn't have the look. The thing is, those people can all wrestle, which is what you really, above anything else, that's what you need to do first. You need to be able to wrestle. He looks like there are basic things that he's not able to do.
Yeah.
Do I think he can get there?
He's been wrestling for like a year.
He's been wrestling for more than that. He was on the second season of NXT.
Okay.
So,
but he's like 36. He used to be a football player, right?
Yeah, he played football. I think he may have had a cup of coffee, I think, with the Packers. I'll have to look it up. I don't even know if Titus O'Neil's his real name. But I don't know if he has it. If he has, and I'm not talking about the it factor or anything. I mean, I don't know if he has it in him to be a fluid worker, a fluid wrestler. But you're right, he does have the charisma. And I think they found something today. They bust out that whistle every once in a while.
Yeah.
But with the stomps in the corner and blowing the whistle with every stomp, crowd loved that.
Oh,
that
people are going to start showing up with whistles in the crowd, which is going to be annoying, but I can see it happening.
Can't be any worse than the 2010 World Cup with the Vuvuzela.
Oh, gosh.
I was watching.
Did you ever download the Vuvuzela app?
I did. I did.
Wow.
Not for my iPhone, for my iPod. But I deleted it. I got sick of it.
It's the worst.
Last night, or yesterday, I hate college football.
Yeah.
I love professional football. I hate college football. But I watched the entire Alabama Texas A&M game yesterday.
Cool game.
And one douche in the crowd had a vuvuzela.
Oh, God.
And you could hear it for most of the game. And it sounded like a vibrating cell phone. And I wanted to choke myself. I couldn't stand it. I hate that thing. But if they bring whistles to the I could see them confiscating whistles.
Yeah.
And just being like, all right, you're done. Stop this. But I like O'Neil. Darren Young is a terrific wrestler. So, I mean, I have faith in them as a tag team for now. But I don't know if O'Neil ever will get there as a worker. I don't know.
I don't know. He's got the size, charisma.
I hope I'm wrong.
And strength. I
do hope I'm wrong because I like him a lot.
Yeah. I mean, Goldberg did it. Intensity, size, strength.
But Goldberg never looked this. I mean, we've talked about Goldberg being green and everything, but he never looked this stiff. Never. Yeah. I mean, to me, Goldberg was a little different. Like he had too much intensity where he would physically hurt people. O'Neil looks like a guy who just doesn't know if he should turn left or turn right. That's the thing.
Like me on the dance floor or something.
Where Goldberg just didn't know when to turn it down.
Yeah.
That was his problem. He had too much force.
But he was awesome.
Yeah, he was awesome. But O'Neil's a guy where it's like he doesn't know what he should do here and there.
He doesn't know how good he's going to be.
Yeah, we'll see. But I tell you what, market improvement in the past month plus.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm not just talking about their put. You got to stop that, dude. Seriously, that's fucking terrible.
I'm getting a little weird. It's 11:11.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was Night of Champions, guys. We hope you liked it. If you saw it, we hope you enjoyed our recap. If you didn't see it, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Immortals Speakcast, at 97Bush, at Jimmy Bellamy, at Wrestle News with a Z. Check that out. Thanks for Wrestle News for hosting us once again. We'll be back in a couple days.
I'd be remiss
recap.
To close it out. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention earlier this week, Jr. Jim Ross quote retired.
Yeah, and I really want to get into that.
So we'll address it more on Raw, especially to see if they even recognize it on Raw.
Yeah.
They did nothing on this pay-per-view.
Yeah.
There's controversy behind it from what we've read. Zach Arnold from WrestleNews.com wrote a great piece about how WWE has crapped all over Jim Ross for years and how this retirement was forced. We'll talk about that more on episode 36. But thank you, everybody, for sticking with us and listening tonight. And hope you have a great week.
All right. Peace.